Let's get through the EF routing top hauls of the week. Coming in at the number 1 spot is going to be a Columbus, Ohio, over to Allentown, PA, 437 on the miles, 2.2 to almost 2.8 on the top end. Then we got a Chicago over to Atlanta, 747 on the miles, just under $2 on the low end, 2.34 on the top end. Getting into the reefer stuff, we got a Philly over to Charlotte, 515 on the miles, 2.3 to 2.7 on the top end. We got Atlanta over to Miami, 647 on the miles, 2.2 to 2.6. Not very solid lane for Miami for that price, but I mean, I guess some people have to go home or something like that. Getting into flatbed, we got a Auburn, Alabama over to Charlotte, 378 on the miles, 2.7 to 3.6 almost on the top end. And we got Demopolis over to Houston, just shy of 600 miles, 2.46 to 2.9 almost on the top end. Again, flatbed just doing great. Best loop for driving, going to start out in Dodge City, Kansas, head over to Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Findlay, Ohio, Lexington, Missouri, Chicago, back to Kansas. Regular work week, a little less than $8,000 on the low end, 8.3 on the top end. Great RPM for a drive-in. Heading into the best loop for reefer, starts out in New York, New York, Lafayette, Indiana, New York, New York again, Chicago, over to Muncie, over to Chicago, back to New York. Regular work week, 9.1 to almost $10,000 on the gross. Again, solid RPM on the reefer side. And for flatbed, we're going to start out in Michigan, over to Milwaukee, over to Lufkin, Texas, Akron, Ohio, Lafayette, back to Michigan. Regular work week, 9 to $10,000 on the gross, 2.7 to 3 on the top end for RPM. Flatbed is doing great. That's going to wrap it up for the EF routing top hauls of the week. Acid-based here with Marco. Acid-based here with Frank. So we're here with Marina. I'm here with Sam. Acid-based here with Samir. Freight carrier sitting with Fook. Acid-based here with Duke. Acid-based here with Augie. Acid-based here with Hector. Acid-based here with Dayan. Acid-based here. Welcome to episode. I'm not quite sure as this is going to be a recording, so we'll number it accordingly. I'm going to sit down today with Clayton Griffin, the president of OTR Solutions. Let's get right into it. What's going on, man?
What's up, Alex?
Hey, thanks for taking time out of your day to join me, and let's get straight to it, man. How did you end up in logistics?
Yeah, I'm sure you get this a lot from your guests, but I kind of stumbled into it straight out of college. So I went to, if you can probably guess, I went to the University of Georgia here in Georgia, in Athens. And then after I graduated, kind of looking for a finance job, stumbled across OTR. It was a kind of a brand new business. That was in 2012. So, OTR was founded in 2011. When I came in kind of summer of 2012, it was 4 or 5 people, and they were looking to kind of build out a little team to continue to grow the business. So I came in on the finance side of the business.
So I would assume you went to school for finance. You didn't take an art major and just stumble into finance.
Yeah. No, I went to school for finance, but I'll be honest. The stuff I was doing when I came into OTR was not kind of like stereotypical finance stuff, right? It was coming in and handling the accounts receivable and the collections. We kind of did a little bit of everything, right? I mean, when you have 5 or 6 people, you're wearing a lot of hats. So
I mean, when you told me that it's not going to take us very long to get through the OTR part of your career timeline, you really weren't joking. That was basically your first job,
first full-time career, if you will. I've had a lot of jobs. Yeah, I've had a lot of jobs. Intramural ref. I was at one point in college, I was doing like transcription for like life insurance salespeople. So that was pretty riveting work.
So what was your first experience with like the trucking side of things? I mean, did you even stumble into any trucking terminology, or was it, just kind of the finance side of things? No.
I mean, at OTR, it's not like like I said, I didn't just come in and kind of just crunching spreadsheets like you might think of a typical corporate finance. I was like on the phone with brokers and carriers on a regular basis every single day, right? That was the job. The title of the role was collection specialist. So effectively OTR built, we were kind of stumbling through, how do you run a factoring company? How do you do the things that not only your clients want you to do, which for us, like we've always been built around, or we certainly were originally started around the small carrier. And so, what do your clients want out of you? And then how do you make sure that you're protecting yourself on the back end? Because ultimately for us, on the factoring side of the business, and we do a lot more than that now, it's, purchasing the receivable as quickly and accurately as we can, and then making sure that we can collect on it as quickly as we can. So when I first came in, I was basically building out that back end process of ensuring that we were getting paid for the invoices. And so it was a lot of, hey, calling brokers, do you have what you need? When are you going to pay me? Is there an issue? If we had an issue, I'd go back to the carrier. Hey, they're missing page 1 or page 2. So you get really familiar with, I wouldn't say, the interconnectivity of how the stuff gets moved, but certainly everything that goes into the mechanics of things being paid, right? Any possible scenario.
I mean, I'm sure you didn't hear much about like dock work and about, the rate per mile on the freight, but I'm sure you definitely know what a VOL looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Which is more pertinent now, just because we've kind of continued to dive deeper into how we can be helpful to our clients. But yeah, early days, it was very much, assessing whether or not I thought a broker had a legitimate issue not to be paying, or whether we thought it was something that we needed to work out with the carrier. And then we just kind of put our heads down and continued to try to get better. So,
okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, Gary. So you've been with OTR now since about 2011. So like 14, 15 years.
Yeah. 2012.
2012.
Yep.
Okay. So take me through like the first year. I mean, how did the first year look for you? And then I guess we'll kind of progress through that timeline.
First day, I remember I came in.
Yeah, first day even. Yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, it stands out. And then the rest of the days kind of blend together, to be honest. But I came in, we were in a tiny office space. It was, like I said, a handful of us, and we're just trying to get through the day at that point, right? I mean, if you think about it, smartphones weren't that pervasive, so there was a lot of physical documents and paper and transpacks and all those types of things. So my first day, the first task that I had was basically every day when we pay people, it prints out on like a schedule so that our carriers know, what loads we paid them on and how much we paid them and the load numbers and all the details and things like that. And we used to print them out, and we'd have physical copies along with all of the corresponding backup documentation. So every invoice, every NOA, every bill, rate con, everything you can imagine was printed out and stapled together, stamped physically. And so my first job was filing all of those physical documents. And so it was like, hey, we got to make sure that we know exactly where these are. So if we need to reference them in the future, we can. So I was just filing those things one after another. And then at that point, right, you're trying to figure out, I was fresh out of college, had a lot of grand ideas, some of which worked, some of which didn't. We had all of our clients on a whiteboard the size of probably the whiteboard behind me. And when I came in, we were physically writing down. So we had physically written down every client name on the whiteboard. And so I come in and I'm looking, and it's, I don't know, 20 names, 30 names, something like that. But the problem is every time that we would win a new deal, they were alphabetized. And so every time we win a new deal, we'd figure out where the new client name would need to go. And we'd erase the
whole whiteboard.
We'd erase the two and we'd fit three where the two were. Right. And so eventually, like, that's not a super sustainable way to go about doing it. So
yeah, that's pretty grassroots. That's like the dispatch equivalent of running everything on Google Sheets, which, to be fair, that does work.
Google Sheets was the first, like, big, in my opinion, big technology initiative we made as a business. We went from whiteboard to Google Sheets. We've obviously come a long way from that, but we have a really good understanding of how those manual processes can look if you don't continue to get better.
That's the thing I like about trucking, though, right? Because the manual stuff does work and the Google Sheet stuff does
no
work.
doubt.
A lot of people a lot of people try to hammer you about getting better tech stack, and it's like, man, I know like 1,000 truck carrier companies that just run off Google Sheets, and everything's fine. Everything picks up, everything delivers, all the paperwork is in like a Dropbox somewhere. So you don't need much to get started, that's for sure.
No doubt. Yeah. So early years, to be honest, it was a lot of figuring it out. We were figuring out how do we had kind of big ambitions. We wanted to be big. We wanted to win new deals. And I think we saw an opportunity to kind of provide something a little different than what everybody else was providing. So
what sort of made you stay, and what sort of made you fall in love with the company and the culture and the industry, right? Because you're fresh out of college, university, and you land in like truck factoring. It's not a very traditional job role, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the best answer is probably the people. I was super impressed with it. Was a very small team, but it was a really impressive team. And so I gelled with the people at OTR, and I also was super excited about what we saw very early in the market. So like when we were reaching out to carriers and asking them, hey, if we can do X, Y, and Z, would you make a switch or would you use us? And we got a lot of yeses. And that's not a guarantee, right? You still got to execute, but ultimately it's probably the people. Like we still to this day are very, very aligned in how we think, and I share an office with our COO, and we're all just really, really close. And you could kind of get that vibe early on that we're all hyper competitive. We like to win, and more importantly, we like kind of to get team wins more than we do individual wins. And so when you see people like that, it's not always super common. I didn't know coming fresh out of school, right? I was thinking to myself, man, maybe all positions are like this, all companies are like this, that have this type of community and culture, but it's not. The longer I've been the longer I've been in kind of my professional career, the more you realize how special it is. So, and
Oh
then it's
yeah,
just,
no,
man, I like the
you got
business
super
model.
lucky to land like that, man, because most companies are like the opposite, where everybody's looking for the solo wins. And I'll confirm,
No doubt.
through my experiences with you guys at OTR, everyone I talk to is like ready to just pass stuff off to the next person. You guys are all really like working towards the same goal. It doesn't matter who I'm dealing with at OTR. You guys are all trying to just move the ball forward.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, it's an environment and culture we try to foster today. So for us, like we just care a ton about getting wins for the business, for each other, and are confident that the individual stuff will come if we're doing the right things for our coworkers and our clients.
I mean, take me through sort of the elevator pitch of what makes OTR stand out versus, the competition in the factoring space.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we have, but somebody asked me that recently. And I think, it's going to sound super kitschy, but I think this is kind of going back to very, very early days, but I think we care a lot, both about our client success, our employees' success. We care about getting better. And I think that just holds us accountable. So, we can talk about kind of our products and services and what we're doing and how we're getting people paid more quickly and more accurately, how we pick up the phone, all those kind of nuts and bolts things that make kind of OTR and how people interact with us, what they experience, what it is. But ultimately, like, all the decisions we make are predicated around making our clients more successful, just because, like, selfishly, it benefits us when our clients are successful. Right. When our clients grow, we grow. When our clients are going out of business or it's a tough freight market, then it's hurting our business as well. And so we're just really focused on keeping that kind of macro goal in mind and making sure that we're not making short-sighted decisions. And I think
just the goal of trying to stay human, because a lot of these larger companies, they lose that sense of being a human. They lose that sense of personality as they scale. And they become really robotic and just like a massive corporation. And like, I've had an experience, I won't name the name of it, but a different factoring company. I was a very small carrier. We had like 5 trucks, and these guys were just crippling our payroll like whenever they felt like it. They're like, oh, like, this didn't come in, we're not going to pay out. And that's going to close our company in the long run. So I think the smaller companies really need to align themselves with companies that are going to look after them and treat them like humans and not just, a number on a paper.
Yeah. I mean, transactional relationships are cheaper. And so I think when people look at ways to trim costs, especially over the last 2.5 years, since the market's been what the market's been
how it's been, exactly.
People are looking for ways, and the easy ways to trim costs or to make relationships or how you engage with clients more transactional. And we're just not willing to make those types of kind of concessions. We'll go everywhere else in our business. And like I said, the days of Google Sheets and reams of paper are obviously gone today. And we've made huge strides as a business to make what we do internally more efficient. Because for us, it's just a way that we can continue to make, like, when you think about strategies and how people can define their business, generally it's like hyper efficient, highly transactional, uses a ton of technology, is leaning into AI, or it's the type of business that you're describing, right? Which is super relationship driven, picks up the phone, knows your name. It's the same person every single time, but rarely do you get a blend of those two things coming together. And that's really what we're striving for. So we're never going to be perfect, but we're certainly trying to improve.
No, I think that's a really good description, a really like clippable moment of this show so far, where it's like, we want to have the cutting edge tech and all this stuff, but we also want to remain, like the whiteboard team that we started with.
They're not mutually exclusive. We don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. It's hard. It's really hard to make sure that you're keeping both of those things equally as important, but we feel like they are. And I think honestly, they feed off each other. The more efficient your back end is, the more dollars you can deploy into relationships, the more humans you can employ and actually solve problems. Because despite what everybody wants to say, and we're making huge strides as an industry from an automation perspective, but people still want to talk to people. People still need to hash through things in person or on the phone sometimes. And if you don't have the ability to be available, then we feel like it's a portion of the market that you're not really serving to the, exactly what they want.
No, I mean, people definitely want to deal with people. I went through a bunch of bad experiences the past week with like Google emails and all this stuff. I'm like, man, I just want to like talk to somebody. Can I just
like Uber? Like, I left my keys in the Uber and I have no idea. It's like, we can't connect you with the driver post ride. Maybe they've gotten better about that, but I remember early days, it was very much like, we fulfilled our duty and we really don't owe you anything else.
Yeah, there's even some brokerages where you just want to like file some detention. Like, hey, you gotta like log in here, make an account there, make an account there. Like, yeah, I just want my detention. Like, I'm on the phone with you now. Why is this so difficult?
Right.
So automation's important, but it's not the end all and be all.
And who are you automating for, right? I think that's to your point. That particular scenario, that might be easier for the broker, save them a couple clicks, or maybe it's more reliable and you get data in the system. But ultimately, it's making life harder for someone else. And for us, like when you get into those scenarios where you're winning and your clients or your counterparties in the industry are losing, it becomes a zero-sum game, and you're just passing wins and losses back and forth, which we don't think is a good way to go about it. So if you can find those opportunities where it truly is a win-win, right? Like it's making your life easier, it's making our life easier, it strengthens the relationship, and we have time to communicate on things when we need to, and if we don't need to, then we leverage the technology.
I mean, I think it goes the best analogy to like self-checkout, right? Because like I go into the grocery store and I want to buy my stuff, and then now they're asking me to bag it myself and scan it myself. It's like, well, I don't work here, I'm just trying to buy stuff. So like, why am I now the cashier, right? Like, I think companies lose sight of, like you said, who they're automating for and who they're serving, and tend to take care of one party more than the other.
But you probably have a piece of the audience that just doesn't want to talk or engage with people, and so they're using self-checkout. You know what I mean? They're using self-checkout every single time that they go to the grocery store, and it's like,
yeah, I don't mind self-checkout for like 5 items or 6. I don't mind that, but when I got a full shopping
if you get a full haul,
it
becomes a bit of a pain. And like the bag portion of the self-checkout is tiny. There's no possible way you can fit an entire grocery run into that.
They're like, take it off. Like, oh, sorry, we didn't weigh it correctly. Put it back and take it off. And then you got to call the lady. Like, she comes over anyways. You're like, oh, you could have just done this for me, man.
Right. Or if you got booze, it takes 10 minutes for them to come over and check your ID. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, anyways, man. OTR Solutions is a huge name in the industry. What's the next big step for OTR? What are you guys cooking up over there?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to continue to find ways to make our clients' lives easier. And I think for us, it's, especially since a big portion of our business is financially related, a lot of the things that we have done over the course of the last 14 years have been tied to that aspect of our business, getting people paid, which ultimately runs through banking relationships and those types of things. And so we're constantly trying to figure out ways to align how we can serve people from a financial perspective, more so with how they're actually doing business, which in trucking is very much not always during kind of traditional 9 to 5 banking hours. And so availability of capital and being able to serve people where they are, when they want to be served, to your point, right? You know, everybody doesn't deliver in the morning and able to submit their invoice by 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. And so figuring out ways to kind of make OTR more available, and then leverage some of the data and relationships that we have in the Epay Manager acquisition that we made at the beginning of 2024, which is a software product that serves freight brokerages, and really connecting kind of that financial connective tissue between carriers and brokers, because there's still a lot of back and forth and a lot of duplicative work that's happening on both levels, really. So it's all that back end stuff, as I mentioned, I think is ultimately going to manifest itself as more available products and services for our clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole idea of factoring, it's not really like a very sexy topic, but when you break it down to the truckers and to the carriers, and I guess to the brokers as well, it's like, this is what's getting most people paid. And I've said it once, 1,000 times, everybody factors. There's only 2 types of people: the ones that factor and the ones that lie about factor. Because I mean, I've been through the industry enough to see every single carrier I've ever been at is factoring, and everyone around me that I've talked to is factoring. And then you have like yahoos on social media, like, yeah, we don't factor. If you factor, you're dumb. And it's like, yeah, I would bet like 98% of the industry probably factors on the small carrier side of things.
Yeah. End of the day, like, factoring is just a slightly different version of institutional and traditional borrowing. I mean, it's the same as having an asset-based line of credit. And so those ABL facilities that you might see in like very, very large carriers where they've gone directly to banks, they come with a different set of requirements, right? The bank's going to be auditing them. The bank's going to be relying on them to put together all the reporting and things like that. For us, we're just auditing the collateral on a daily basis instead. and having effectively people send us the invoice. And if we can approve it and get it paid, then we're going to get it paid as quickly as we can. So it's the same process as if you went to a bank. Fundamentally, it's the same, right? Like the bank is allowing you to borrow off of your assets, which in this particular case are your invoices, your AR, and we're doing the same. We're buying your AR. So it's a slightly different way to get to the same answer. But we feel like it's just, there's so much industry knowledge that becomes helpful in trucking, where your commercial banks in a lot of cases don't have it, right? They're not willing to get on the phone with a broker and work through a claim issue. They're not willing to get on the phone with a broker and work through the fact that, it says page 1 or 2, but in fact, it's just page 1, and that's the only one that you need. All those really small things that we feel like make us different are what, ultimately I think our clients choose us for over whether it be other factors or working direct with a bank. I think everybody in the back of their mind aspires to, I just want to have my own line of credit, but it's a different type of relationship that's going to get you very similar results.
I like to hear you say that, because I've been through a few factoring companies in my carrier career, and it's like, you need page 3. And I'm like, no, you don't need page 3. Like, no, like by our guidelines, by our rules, you need page 3. I'm like, I don't have page 3 because the guy like spilled coffee on it. They're like, right. Well, we're not paying without page 3. I'm like, yeah,
it's a fine line to walk. Like ultimately we have to get what we need to get paid. But like we think that I think a lot of times people want to just push it off and find a reason to say no. I think we take a little bit of a different approach and are really trying to find a reason to say yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's actually the best way you could possibly put it. So let's get through the Epay Manager stuff. I know you guys you made an acquisition there. Take me through, what it is and what value you guys saw over there.
Yeah, what's interesting about Epay, I mean, first of all, they've been around for a really long time. It's a piece of technology that was built by former trucking company and freight brokerage owner. So effectively, he was running a trucking company and a brokerage and figured, it feels like there's a more efficient way to go about doing this, specifically back office for his brokerage. And so he started building the technology in the early 2000s. They've been building it for effectively almost 25 years now. So when I came in, I mentioned that my role at OTR was kind of collection specialist, going in and looking at all the invoices that we as OTR, the factoring company, had purchased from brokers and figuring out when we're going to be paid and why we might not be paid on certain things. And so one of the platforms, really the only platform we used to get that information in a digital way when I started, was Epay Manager. So it's funny, when the opportunity to acquire the business came, about late 23, early 24, my name specifically was still the name of record for OTR on Epay, and our team is still working out of Epay, or was still working out of Epay. And so we would go in and basically we would submit invoices. We would verify that the invoice amount was correct, that we felt like we and our carrier deserved to be paid. We would upload documents, and then we would be able to see, were there any issues? Did they put it on hold? Is there a short pay kind of coming? All the important stuff for a factoring company and a carrier to know in a digital way, right? And so it was a call that we didn't have to make to the freight brokerage floor, to the accounts payable team to say, hey, can you give me some information on load 1, 2, 3? And so I already knew the value when it came about in, like I said, late 23 and 24. And so they basically go in. What we do at Epay is we integrate directly with a brokerage's TMS. Like I said, it's a piece of technology that we have integrated our working capital into, so we can provide factoring and or something that feels more like a traditional ABL for brokerages. So we can fund quick pays if a broker doesn't want to fund quick pays themselves. We can extend payment terms if they have a shipper that that pays them in 60 or 90 days, that they can't float the 30 or 60 days of float between when they have to pay the carrier and when they get paid. But the platform itself is really a piece of software that integrates with a broker's TMS. And every time a load gets delivered, it gets presented in Epay. And what happens is that load information is sent to the carrier or the factoring company and says, hey, I see that you delivered a load. Submit your documents into the Epay Manager platform, confirm that the information looks correct, and then we'll be able to pay you directly from the platform. Instead of what most brokers are doing is they just have an open email inbox to the world where carriers are just sending a bunch of documents in and they're trying to figure out, well, what load does this go to? Did they send multiple PODs with this particular email? did they send a piece of a POD in this email and a piece in that one? And so in Epay, it's one load record and one carrier or factoring company associated with that load record. And then we're uploading directly onto the load record. So when a broker comes in, broker's back office team, they just see the load and the corresponding documents. They're already matched because we're only requesting the documents from the carrier that they have in their TMS. So I'm getting into the weeds a little bit. We've talked about, I've had so many conversations about Epay and over the course of the last year plus. But effectively, it's a back office tool that makes collection of carrier and factor documents as well as payment of those loads more efficient for brokerage back office.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the plain English thing, like the point of that story that I heard myself was like, instead of calling this company, like, hey, why don't we just like acquire this company and we could just become them, like cut out that whole part, And
it just helps us provide kind of we've always worked with brokers. Obviously, 85 to 90% of the volume on our factoring business flows through freight brokers. I mean, I mentioned that we work with mostly kind of smaller carriers. I mean, we have 100, 200, 300 power unit fleets that are working with us. But most of those smaller carriers are getting brokered freight, right? They're not going direct to shippers in most cases. So we had a ton of relationships with these brokers already, but we didn't have something that we could provide value, right? We were the annoying person that was calling them and saying, hey, can you give me some information? I need to verify a rate. I need to find out why you haven't paid this invoice. And so it gives us a way to engage with them in a different way and provide some value to a different side of the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's like, we've talked about it many, many times on the podcast where it's like the 1 to 5 truck carriers are not hauling direct freight. And if they are, I mean, there's like one guy out there on LinkedIn who's been in the game a long time. He hauls only customer direct. Love the guy.
Good for him.
It's just
That's awesome.
not the norm,
It's not common. We don't see it a ton.
Exactly. But when you see those stories, you can't help but feel like, so much like pride for that guy, because when you're a one truck owner operator, if you're running all customer direct, that's like, the purple squirrel in the room. That's not common at all.
No doubt.
Take me through, amidst all the change OTR has experienced, what remains one constant within OTR?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think the desire to make our clients' lives, whether now it's obviously carriers and now brokers, easier and better. We've come a long way from the whiteboard and the Google Sheets days, but the desire to get better, both internally and for the benefit of our clients, I think has remained pretty constant. I think our desire to compete and win as a team, I think is also something that is fundamentally really important. Our Grace sentiment around recently from a former kind of Surgeon General around the power of community. And I feel like the work culture gets tossed around a lot. You see kind of the representation of that is like ping pong tables and open floor plans, which is fine. And like, I like ping pong as much as the next guy, but I think for us, it's more so that community of truly wanting to win together. It's one of our core values is winning together. And so that desire to do what's necessary to ensure that the team is continuing to put itself in the best position to be successful. I think for me, it's one of the most important things that I am focused on continuing to make a priority. If you're not explicitly focused on those things, sometimes it can become an individual contributor, individual accolade. It's easy to slip into that if you're not careful about ensuring that we're focused on making the team and winning together a priority. So that's a big focus for us internally at OTR. And I think ultimately that just manifests as a better experience for our clients.
I mean, I have a close friend of mine, and it's sort of cliche and it sort of sounds silly when you say it, but when you start thinking about it, like, like the ability to just like give a shit about things, like, cause some companies, like there's a level of give a shitness that people just don't possess these days.
You took the words out of my mouth, man. I said we care earlier, but ultimately the give a shit meter is high. And so we just,
it sounds silly, man, but that's all that it really takes, man, to stand out in this day and age as a carrier, as a broker, as a factoring company. I mean, just caring about people and treating them like you actually care is
because you do the small things a lot differently when you care, right? It's just those small things. People you can tell when somebody gives a shit about your success, or whether you're just a transactional relationship. And so, we're still 14 years in, and I'm like, unnecessarily texting people late at night night on weekends about like random shit. And I'm sure they're like, what? Like, and I'm not the only one that's doing that, right? Like, it's just, we care a lot and we care about winning. We care that our clients are having more success than other people. So yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, what type of advice would you give yourself, your day one at OTR self, if you could give yourself advice today?
I think just being confident in value that we can deliver to our clients, and really ensuring that we're not diluting that as we scale. I said that that's something that we're continuing to be very, very focused on. And I think we've done a good job of it. But ultimately, that's why we've had success and why I think we will continue to have success. So just being kind of laser focused on not diluting that value that we're providing to clients, because that's really what makes you different. Otherwise, if you even think about sliding into this kind of mindset of, I want to become more transactional, I want to, interface less with my clients because it's cheaper, or, the market's taking a breather, those types of things, I think just long-term, they're killers, because once you start to head in that direction, and why I think it's really important for us, I think people underappreciate how important the foundational concepts of a business are early on, because culturally, you're building off of that foundation. I view it very similarly to a house, right? Like if you're aligning yourself and you're in an area, you're building a house that is in a floodplain or is prone to hurricanes, you're going to build it differently. So you're building that foundation with a mindset toward what you're going to need to accomplish in the future.
Yep.
And so being really, really focused on ensuring that we are building that foundation, which is giving us the best chance to succeed in what we want to be, right? Which might be very different than what someone else wants to be. And that's fine. I think just owning that, I think, COVID was a super interesting exercise for us. The business is very focused on kind of human development. And so we hire, generally speaking, a decent amount of young people that are in their first or second or third kind of professional stint. And so for us, like, the development of that person professionally is very, very important, not only to us, but their success. And so when COVID and this concept of remote work, which I think there is extraordinary value to remote work, and we as a business have found what I feel like is a really good kind of blend of enabling people to be developed as humans, as well as giving them the flexibility to be really good at their job, but have the flexibility to move around and work from home. But very early on, I mean, Fritz, our CEO, we were trying to figure out the stance that we wanted to take, right? As we began to come out of this world of everybody's at home, everybody's used to working from home, all the big, corporations are making the decisions that we're going to be remote from or work from home forever, which of course you flash forward 3 or 4 years, and many of them have backed off that stance and are requiring people to be in 5 days a week. I think we took a pretty, Fritz especially did an amazing job of kind of recognizing that it's important to our culture to have some aspect of physical presence with people. I think people enjoy being around people, especially when they're trying to develop their careers and they're new to an industry and they want to put their hands on things. And so we very quickly were at least partially back in office. And now we have a hybrid work schedule where we've been able to honestly progress as the desires of our employees and the technological capabilities allowed us to do so. But we didn't succumb to the flavor of the moment, in my opinion, which was, in order to compete to hire people, you had to be fully remote. We felt like there was a population of the workforce that was going to desire being in office at least a portion of the time. And we made it very apparent to the people that we hired going forward. And so I feel like there was a really important kind of identification period for our employees as well as our new hires, where we said, this is who we are. We're not a great fit for every single person on the planet, right? And there are other businesses that are really good fits. And this is just from a hiring perspective, how we think about it. But it goes back to that kind of thought process of just being true to who you are and owning it, because there is a fit in the market, both from a client and an employee perspective. As long as you're confident in who you are and you're transparent with your clients and your employees. Like, I think the businesses that have had the most trouble is the ones that said, hey, we're going to be work from home forever. And they made a bunch of grand promises and now they're backing off of them. And it's very hard to get people off of that line of thinking when you've already drawn the line in the sand. So it's a long-winded answer, but ultimately just kind of being true to who you are and making sure that we are staying true to those kind of core core pillar fundamentals that make us who we are.
I mean, I think you touched on two really important points throughout that answer. And the first one, I've also agreed with this stance is, I've been building a team. We're up to like 12, 13, 14, 15 of us. And I told everybody early on, I was like, listen, if we can't get it right with 10 of us, we're not going to get it right with 100 of us or 500 of us. And I think we really need to buckle down and understand who we want to be, the foundation of what we want to do, and do things the right way now. Because if we're not getting it right, on a small team, how do you guys think this is going to work out when there's 100 people?
Could agree more, man. And I'll tell you, that's awesome. And I will tell you, there is nothing more important than having alignment around that first core group. There's nothing more important, because if you have, I mean, this is true today, true really any size in a lot of ways, but like if you have people that are not aligned with the culture and what you're trying to build, then as they hire people, there's going to be growing pieces of the business which share that misalignment. And then you have a piece of the organization or pieces of the organization that just aren't on the same page. And might their opinions be perfectly valid? Of course. There are a bunch of ways to do these things. But ultimately you want people rowing in the same direction, because you can move a lot more quickly. You can move a lot more confidently. When you get people rowing in different directions, it's very, very hard to move fast without kind of breaking shit.
I've kind of equated it to like, a cancer growing within a company when you have one or two people that are kind of like the fringe on the outside, because like you said, as they hire, as you grow, like that sort of spreads like this thing around that you don't really want.
100%. I can promise you that not addressing it doesn't make it go away.
Yeah,
and so, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people think, oh, they'll come around, or it's okay if they have a different perspective, which, listen, it is wonderful to have different points of views and perspectives. But ultimately, there needs to be alignment around what the company's about and who the company is and what we want to be. And so I couldn't agree more, man. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people tell me, like, oh, this is such a minor detail. Like, like, why are you so like frustrated about it? I'm like, because listen, like if there's one minor detail today with 10 of us, that means there's going to be 10 minor details with 100 of us. It means there's going to be 100 on 1,000 of us. And you always got to be looking that long.
Details matter, 100%.
And I think going back to your point of work from home and in the office, I like that you guys said, listen, like we're going to do things like this is who we are. If you don't like it, I mean, there's probably a company that's a better fit for you. And I think the office has such a big role, especially in training, especially in, like you said, developing the younger generations that are around the company. The office is definitely something important. I do see the value. I do love work from home. I personally work from home. I run my entire team room. I love it. But there's days where I'm like, man, if we were all sitting in the same room, you know how much faster this would have been done.
Dude, it depends on the business. It depends on the business model. There's so many inputs. And like I said, I'm not making a proclamation that we do things right. It's just how we do it.
How we do them.
And I think that's the most important thing, like understanding that this is how we do it and we have an opinion and these are the reasons that we have that opinion. And to your point, right? Like we have 350 employees. We want all the most amazing people we can find to be a part of our business. But ultimately there has to be a marriage between the business and the people in the business. And you're not going to get maximum out of people to benefit both if there is an alignment there. So it's really just owning who you are, whatever that is.
Oh, of course. I think we've got through the meat and potatoes of the show. OTR Solutions for factoring, Epay for the brokerage back office. Got like 5-10 minutes left with you with some more fun stuff. And we'll start with the absolute favorite part of the podcast to me. Craziest logistics story. In this case, craziest factoring story.
Oh, boy.
I mean, you're dealing with people's money, man. There's somebody had to have called you freaking out at least once.
I mean, we got, people care a lot. I think honestly, the craziest things that we have, obviously we see all the double brokering schemes and the various, the most recent one that I don't know if it's public, but where you had an agent that was installed at an agency brokerage and was effectively building fake shipper relationships and then employing real carriers, leasing on to real carriers to use their MC and then funneling money through factoring companies is a pretty wild one. I don't know if you've heard about that. But that's a pretty wild one that was really sophisticated and something we hadn't seen in the past. To be honest, the areas that we've run into trouble have generally been when we had a little exposure to non-logistics. So we used to kind of dabble in some construction factoring and things like that. We don't do that anymore because of that exact reason, because we know logistics, we know trucking, and we don't know those other things as well. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a ton of crazy things. I'm trying to think of I mean, if you ask our account managers on the floor, some of the pictures they get are pretty wild.
Hey man, I've been, I was a dispatcher a long time, man. My favorite picture, like absolutely my favorite picture. I swear, like this picture's happened like multiple times to other dispatchers too, where it's like the guy will send you the BOL, or like, whoever's the driver will send you the paperwork with like no pants.
Oh, dude,
like you don't see anything; it's just legs.
Yes, 100%. We get those all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Like right in the driver's seat for some reason.
Hey, listen, every body part you can imagine. Every body part you can imagine has come across in pictures of bills in our platform for sure.
It's my favorite, man, because you just cam scanner, you just get a piece of paper. These people take the picture in the funniest places. Like, I mean, I made a LinkedIn post like a year or two ago offering like photography lessons for BOL and POD like purposes to truck drivers, and like
that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like something that actually could be a good business model. I mean, hopefully we can just get tech to take away this whole like sending in the BOL thing.
Just remove the thumbs from every single picture that comes across.
Yeah, every single thumb. It's like right where you shouldn't be. Oh my god, man. All right, I got the last question of the podcast for you, man, regarding chicken wings, the chicken wing choices. When you eat chicken wings, you prefer drums or flats?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. And I know people have really
I like how serious you've started the internal monologue here off just like,
dude. Firstly, I'll say I eat a lot of chicken wings. I would consider myself, a wing connoisseur light, if you will. Funny enough, and I know we're trying to wrap this thing up, but our CFO, who has been at the business for 3 years or so, and our chief sales officer actually are both from Buffalo, New York. And so we were doing a little leadership training very early on in our CFO's tenure, and we were having drinks afterward, and we were just kind of chatting about, obviously they're huge Bills fans and Buffalo through and through. And we mentioned like, this is when the Bills were on the come up, 3 years ago, Josh Allen. And we were kind of like, man, we should go see a Bills game. Or he might have mentioned it. And we were like, I think he might have mentioned it. We should go see a Bills game in Orchard Park in Buffalo. And we were like, all right, let's go. And literally the next day we had an itinerary and we've gone for the last 3 years to Buffalo to see the Bills. We actually saw the Bills and the Chiefs play this year. If you remember that game, it was sick. Josh Allen ran for a touchdown on like 4th and 2 to win the game. But all that to say, we eat a shitload of buffalo wings when we're in Buffalo. I would say, I think I used to enjoy the convenience of a drum just because it's easier to eat.
Yeah, one-handed.
Yeah, it's just kind of one-handed thing. Although we have somebody, the guy who kind of runs our business intelligence kind of data visualization group is really good at eating a flat with one hand. I'll be honest, I haven't mastered that technique to this point, but
I've been sent YouTube videos from guests when I asked them this question because they all I've been sent literal tutorials of how to eat flats. I still can't figure it out.
So I think this is my answer. I think the convenience of a drum, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. The convenience of a drum, I think, has its I'm attracted to that to a certain extent. I'm not a huge fan of like the mega wings. So like if a drum gets too big, I'm turned off. I need a smaller, more manageable wing, like the roided out kind of chicken wings, especially
like
drums.
Baseball bat style, but
yeah, get a little dicey. Like I don't want a turkey leg when I'm trying to eat chicken wings. So I'll say that, like the convenience of the drum. From a meat quality perspective, I think the flat is the better choice, but it's a bit more of a commitment, So you just got to be in for the long haul when you're going after the flats.
That's probably the absolute best chicken wing choices start I've ever seen in the 100 episodes we've done.
Oh man! Well, like I said, we've eaten a bunch.
We got 2 questions left about chicken wings. I hope they're not going to take us.
I'll wrap them up more quickly.
Ranch or blue cheese on the dipping sauce?
See, this is another great question, and it's an easy answer for me. It's blue cheese, because if I were to answer ranch, Jeff and Peter, the 2 Buffalo natives, would likely call for my resignation. So I'm going to go blue cheese.
Yeah, blue cheese is the right choice there too.
But
finally,
Buffalo blue cheese is a different beast. If you get up to Buffalo, there's literally thousands of buffalo wing spots, but the blue cheese in Buffalo is some of the best in the world.
Is this spicy or is it just regular blue cheese?
It's just regular, at least the stuff that I had. But it's not like the mega chunk blue cheese.
Yeah,
it's just kind of but it does have texture, but it's not like the mega chunks.
Man, you gotta start like a YouTube channel. Just like David Portnoy with the one slice pizza. You gotta just go do chicken wings, man.
Dude, have you seen the hot ones?
That's your calling.
Have you seen the hot ones?
Yeah.
Show and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, man, I like it. That's just too much. They're just eating spicy stuff, man. You gotta go all through America and then all through Europe. Just
that's true.
You're really descriptive with your wings, man.
I actually love that idea. Don't tempt me.
Maybe I'll get a head start for you in Serbia, even though we don't do chicken wings very well over here. Last question, and I'm really interested to hear your answer after the dialogue we've had. Breaded or non-breaded?
Non-breaded.
Wow, that
100%.
was a very hard answer, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I
it's the wrong answer, but it didn't take you very long.
You're a breaded guy. I think I'm not looking for a nap after my chicken wings. I kind of want just a clean dose of. I want a clean dose of lean.
Clean dose of 100 chicken wings to your face.
Yeah, lean, kind of just crispy. Now I do like really crispy chicken wings, but the breading, the mega breaded stuff, it just weighs you down a little too much. You add in a dose of blue cheese, and you got a full meal in one drum.
I mean, that's.
I'm non-breaded all the way, dude. We'll take you up to Buffalo. I'm telling you. And we'll show you what a chicken wing's about.
All right, Clayton, thank you for joining me, telling us about OTR and Epay. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to announce in the future, and we'll have you back on the show for sure. And maybe we'll discuss some chicken wings as we go through. I'll get some more chicken wing related questions prepared for you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Alex.
Take it easy, bro. Acid based here with Marco. Acid based here with Frank. So we're here with Marina. I'm here with Sam. Acid based here with Samir, freight carrier sitting with Fook. Acid based here with Duke. Acid based here with Augie. Acid based here with Hector. Acid based here with Dayan. Yeah,